Hello, I'd like to welcome you once again as I continue my homily series on defining moments. But first of all, another joke from the book, Pretty Good Joke Book. The human cannonball decided to retire. The circus order cried, "But you can't. Where am I going to find a man of your caliber?" I hope you followed up on the homework that I gave you last weekend, namely to reflect on your life, to discover your defining moments and what you have learned from those moments. And it's a good exercise, good spiritual exercise to do every now and then. In our scriptures today, we have more defining moments. The defining moment in the book of the prophet Jonah. Jonah was called by God to preach to the sinful Ninevites. The Ninevites were the enemies of Israel. But you notice that Jonah began to preach, and what happened was the grace of conversion, that even the enemies of Israel converted. They listened to the word of God through Jonah. They believed, they repented, and God saved the Ninevites from the punishment that he was going to inflict upon them. So look at that, a defining moment for all of Nineveh, even though they were the enemies of Israel. And it was a defining moment for Jonah, because Jonah did not think his preaching would be listened to. And Jonah felt that even if they would listen, that God would still punish them because they were obviously the enemies of Israel. But God did not punish the Ninevites. God blessed them for their repentance. And so for Jonah, it was a defining moment that God truly is a God of mercy. And in our gospel, the defining moments when Jesus called Peter, Andrew, James, and John to follow him. Jesus simply says, "Come, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men," fishers of human beings. They left their comfort zone of their boats, their occupation, and they followed after Jesus. And that certainly was an amazing defining moment for them. So, again, in that first reading, the Ninevites collectively have a defining moment. And that means that we, even as larger entities, have defining moments. For example, our parish has had its share of defining moments. One wonderful defining moment was way back in 1956 when the Archbishop of Milwaukee, at that time Bishop Meyer, decided that St. Mary's Parish in Elm Grove was getting too big. So the Archbishop decided to establish a new parish west of Pilgrim Road. And that parish was called St. John Vianney, and it was entrusted to Father Paul Lipscomb. And Father Lipscomb took possession of 12 acres of farmland where we're standing and sitting right now on the corner of Calhoun and Gebhardt. And in 1956, to be precise, on the 26th of June, Father Lipscomb gathered with a very small group of people, and he planted what he called a mustard seed. Father took a badge of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. And you can still get badges like this too at Stempers or at Holy Hill or other religious good stores. And Father Lipscomb buried this badge. He said, "This will be our mustard seed, the heart of Jesus. It'd be interesting to know where he buried that, but somewhere on this vast property, he buried the Sacred Heart badge. And within a year and a half, with 150 brand new families, a church and a school was established. So a year and a half later, that first congregation, which in the short run was just worshiping in the local high school or in people's homes, in the basement of a rectory, they established this new building, which is right next to us, part of our school today. And the first Mass was celebrated on Christmas Eve, midnight Mass, 1957. And the school was eventually expanded 3 times. That was the great growth of St. John Vianney Parish. And by the 1970s, the parish had really grown. And Father Lipscomb then broke ground for this new church that we're in back in 1978. And certainly from St. John Vianney, we've had many vocations to the priesthood and the religious life, many sacraments celebrated here, weddings and baptisms and confirmations. And as we gather here in the 21st century, St. John Vianney Parish is still alive. Yes, we have some hardships with the coronavirus. Dollars are tight these days. Father Lipscomb was very big on asking people to leave a legacy. Namely, he said, God is number one in your life. Put your parish in your will. Simple, simple words uttered way back in the late 50s and early 60s. Something to think about for the future, for a mustard seed to continue to remember St. John Vianney Parish even into the next 60 or 70 years, and hopefully longer that we will be here. Of those original 150 families, 26 families are still here. And that is amazing. So at least 2 of them will be giving a short witness talk about their recollections of the beginnings of St. John Vianney Parish.
Out in, we lived in Milwaukee. Been married 2 years, and I worked downtown. And we moved to like 2 apartments to a condo that we bought. Somebody told me that, the way to make money in this world is real estate. It was such a headache that I couldn't get rid of it fast enough. And somebody suggested Brookfield. And we came out here and looked around, and if I remember right, the building was on the corner at that time. Mm-hmm. And the gym the gym today used to be the church.
The cafeteria.
And then it expanded north and expanded east, and we were good friends, but that goes way back. Henry and Dorothy must have been trailblazers out here. And the neighborhood built up, a good many of them came to St. John, and I can still remember looking out the window, this whole troop or mob of kids walking up Helene Drive and then east on Gebhardt every morning. They kind of waited for each other. They didn't have sidewalks then in those days, and I thought, it must have been dangerous. But so our 5 kids grew up here. They all went to St. John. The youngest is retiring in April, which makes me feel my youngest is retiring. And they all did very well, thanks to St. John. And I remember one time, we all came in together, and evidently we all kneeled down on the kneeler at the same time, and it crashed. Bang! Wow, those pews were from another church someplace. And everybody kept running over to see if we're okay, and well, we were just fine. But that reminds me, those all the volunteerism around here, all these years. I think Henry Gleckstein and Paul Bobowitz practically built the place. And that's when I was introduced to the Holy Name Society. I was brought up Lutheran, and Carolyn was Catholic. Well, until I turned Catholic, there was not much of a future ahead of us. Thank goodness she did. We've been married 65 years. She died in March, right at the beginning of the flu or whatever you call it. And that kind of disrupted all the preparations and so forth. And what a pain that was. Early days, I think back of all, there must be millions and millions of volunteer hours put in by the people of this parish. And I think that, holy cow, I have to give a lot of credit to St. John for that and their success.
Dom's, when we moved here in '58, had to either go to Dominic's or here. And here they said that if you gave $7.50 a Sunday, your children could go to school. My oldest son wasn't in first grade here, he was in second grade, but all three of them did. And my oldest son, like, I don't know all the things before that, because there was a school and the church was in the cafeteria, and my friend was here when they went to church, at Central or at the basement in Father Lipscomb's house, and things like that. But we were here the second year. We really had to pitch in a lot, because I don't remember, not right away, but soon we had to do the playground. And the mothers had to come, everybody was working outside of the home. And we started the library, and Catherine Stick, Reem Ross, and Pat Blazowitz, I think, were the three that started, because Catherine Stick called me and asked me to come and work with them, and I said, I have no library experience. But she said, you can, they liked my writing, so I could accession the books, and then I could work. But those three, just did it. And I think our library was here before the Brookfield one was.
Wow.
Yes, and we were always so proud, because we said we had a library before we had a gym. Used to meet at Judge's Band. The Peggy Judge always came to church with a flower behind her ear. And they would let the children go to school there until, like 4 o'clock, cocktail time, and then they'd come back. But and we were all young, and we were all raising children. So a funeral was just an oddity. I just don't even remember. I think C.C. Bloom's husband maybe died in his 40s, so that's about the only funeral we ever had. They hired Mrs. Keppel, Emily Keppel, and she was just going to school for her teaching thing, and I thought, oh, great. My poor child isn't going to have a good thing. Well, she was the best teacher, and she would send a card to when they graduated from 8th grade. She followed all the people. She finished her things, but she, was a wonderful teacher. I have a funny story about that too. When they finally were doing, and it was still in the old church, you could touch the post and you could shake hands. And this one woman that I had been going to morning mass with, I bet 6 years, and she said, oh, peace be with you. And she said, where do you get your shoes? we worked hard for the parish because we tries to raise money, because we were starting out, and no tuition. One time we needed everybody to give $200. And so Mr. Blazowitz, he was Pat's husband, he came and he walked into our house, which we didn't have any carpeting in our living room or any furniture. We had our furniture in the family room. Walked right through the plywood stuff and took our $200.
Oh, but everybody chipped in, it sounds
Yeah,
like.
because he was another guy that did maintenance of buildings.
Sure.
Just a wonderful, nice guy. My son worked for him when he was in high school, and he
Sure.
was so kind and everything. But yeah, he was out collecting, I suppose, before he went to do. There was no Brookfield Square, or all there was the beer depot, where the library is. And no Ruby Aisle, just the Lutheran Church, this one in the beer depot. We had a science cart that they just rolled into the room, But like Jen Shower's son became a doctor, and Sally O'Connor's son they both became those 3-year wonder doctors, and did it all. So
Wow.
with that science cart. In Brookfield Square, my son used to trap in the swamp, all the way up through there.
What wonderful recollections we heard about our foundation of St. John Vianney Parish. So from Father Paul Lipscomb to your present priests, Father Alex Wassu, and me, Father Ed Kornath. Our pictures are on the new parish directory. We have had wonderful priests here. We continue to look to the future. Next week, I'll conclude my Defining Moments series about how we can even become more serious in our discipleship, to become ambassadors for the Lord, and to make that as the most important defining moment of your life. And so, see you again next Sunday. God bless you.